Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot coming at you with another installment of the Transmetropolitan Retro Comic Review, Rundown, whatever you want to call it. Focusing now on the penultimate chapter of the series, Volume 9, The Cure. Where we left off, during a freak superstorm that also was preceded by a sniper randomly shooting people in the print district, a large swath of the print district's evidence archives, where all the evidence for the various investigative reports and whatnot, basically the stuff saying, hey, the sources, saying, hey, here's the proof. A large portion of that was wiped out. Including a goodly portion of everything Spider had gathered against the Smiler before being fired from the Word. Or, well, likely including, I should say. Also, shortly after deciding that the two of them would simply, or that after Spider decided he and his assistants would simply spend the next year, as that's about all the time he's got left with the degenerative brain disorder he's got now, they would put it all back together. Only to hear on the news that the First Lady and her children were killed in a car accident. Though it was noted that it was shown that there were footsteps coming away from one of the cars. And so we begin Volume 9. So, the cure begins with Shannon waking up next to Spider. Basically explaining that he got into bed to freak her. Nothing happened. It was more a case of when she wakes up, she sees Spider, will freak out, and, yeah. He explains that she was having some kind of weird dream as he was passing, and he thought he would comfort her with his presence. Explaining his worship is a figure of great calm and spirituality in some places. And she was wriggling a lot. And the cat brought a present. A full-size dog. And so, Spider and his assistants go into the city, passing by McVeigh High School, where the student is pulled aside for having the wrong kind of thoughts. Thoughts that included gun, bomb, and die. He explains he watched an action movie the night before, and he's being expelled and sent to the police station. Shannon opines that when she was a kid, they didn't let kids into the school without guns. Spider adds that when he was in school, they had to make their own, or the teachers had an unfair advantage. And so, of course, they're asked where is the three of them are heading. The reclamation area. Which, hell with it. Saying it looks like hell is being charitable. However, it has been named the Vita Severn Memorial Federal Disaster Zone. And Yelena angrily opines that they haven't done a damn thing. It was declared disaster, roped off, and that's all. She further adds that it's clear that the Smiler is laughing at Spider, saying that, by naming it after Vita, saying that he's shitting on those people's lives just to piss Spider off. And so he starts taking pictures of the area. To explain that federal disaster zones are automatic under martial law, and that is the trick. Spider further explains that the disaster area demarcation covers the city. The zone is just the reclamation area. So what is it about the city that bugs the president so much? Adding that he goes on that, well, it suggests maybe it's because Spider lives in the city. Spider thinks that it has to do with an election pattern, or thinks that it has to do with election patterning, or patterning. He goes on to add that the city went overwhelmingly to Lee Callahan in the election. They say the city goes where the country does, which is not quite right. It chooses presidents and punishes presidents. It's a weird pattern of voting against second-term presidents, and the city went against the beast in the second election. He got in anyway, but it's a rule of thumb that if the city goes against the president going for a second term, they'll be lucky to get in anyway. Which only goes to show that politics is gibberish and horse shit. Honestly, that is 100% true. He then adds, consider the city will go against Callahan if he stands for a second term, and the party won't stop him in hell. Foregone conclusion, he'll go for as many terms as he can get. Yelena does mention the city will vote against him no matter what, though. She thinks, is Spider maybe figuring that Smiler's plan is to just screw up the city, and screw with it in advance? His approval numbers would be astronomical because with the deaths of his wife and children, and he's being publicly manfully brave about it. Shannon adds that he could probably screw lambs in the ass in the middle of Century Square and get a round of applause for it. Shannon suggests doing a story that on the disaster zone, and it implicates the Smiler and the mayor, who honestly should be keeping an eye on a disaster area of his own city, right? And so, Spider, Shannon, and Yelena run across the tops of cars, kicking in windshields, and Spider basically declares exactly what he's going to do. Re-interview witnesses, go through the computer archive, link them all, drill down. And so the trio arrive at a bar, promptly using presumably bowel disruptors on two of the transients there. Spider beats up the bartender and goes into the back room, where an old friend is waiting, Fred Christ. Spider grabs Fred by the throat after smacking him around a bit and says this is their final conversation, and it will be a good one. So we move on, and Spider interviews Fred. Let's just call it enhanced interview techniques. As in, Spider beats the hell out of him for a while, and then starts asking questions. Namely, when did Fred first get involved with Gary Callahan, the Smiler? And Fred explains that it happened during the Angels 8 riot. Going on to explain the old mayor was the Beast Man. A riot would get him unseated no matter what the spin was. Fred put himself in a position where, and then he kind of stops and says the transit community was willing to do what he said. He knew how to talk to people in authority. He was in the music business. He knew how to deal with assholes with money. He'd take cash in order to make things happen. Of course, Fred didn't figure on Spider seeing the handoff. He explained that the money allowed Fred to buy full legal status for the religion. Just saying a religion doesn't give you the tax breaks, the charitable status, the constitutional protection. All of that costs money. However, he was still going to be a small fry. And basically boiled down to him, he wanted to be bigger. Shannon smacks him around a bit as well. Fred explains that, the Smiler offered money legitimacy. He thinks that, he's fairly certain that the Smiler, Fred was probably bought cheaply. He paid for the vice presidential candidate's brain. Callahan made grateful noises. But Fred's pretty sure he wasn't worth noticing to Callahan. However, Vita Severn, she saw him and hated him. At the convention, it was made clear he was in the cold. And then Spider broke the Bastard Farm story, and Fred was out of the Callahan circle. But because of that, he was also fair. Fred was sure that Vita's days were numbered. He explained a lot of people knew this. That he even got drugs out of it. Explaining that he told Kristen, who the former political informant turned bar owner, he sold her the information. As far as he knows, she made some cash off of it. So that explained that when he was a senator, Callahan got caught in a loan scandal. Political boogeymen were giving him money and gifts in return for favors instead of never solidly proven. The very least of these gifts was a kitten from one of his kids. The night before he gave a speech in defense of his ethics and all that, he killed the cat. Voice crackers explained that the only gift he received was a kitten for his child, which had been run over by some bastard the previous day. Worked like a charm. And that's what he does. When he's in serious trouble, he kills someone whose death is his direct and immediate advantage. It doesn't matter who, so long as their death will do the job. Which is why Fred's hiding in the back of shitty bars. It's then explained that, Fred got him transient hookers anytime he was in the city. But it didn't get him anywhere. Turns out, though, that concierge at the hotel was taking the credit. And, well, the concierge got killed. Fred then blames the death of the concierge on Spider, because, well, Spider named names, and, well, yeah. Of course, Fred got called up by the cops because the cops knew he ran transient girls, but the Smiler didn't. And once the interview's over, Spider gives Fred one last smack in the face with the chair leg of truth, and the trio leave. With Spider explaining to Fred that Spider won't be seeing him again because Fred's going to die. He's got an awful lot of people suffer over the years, but now Fred's going to die because of something Spider's going to write. And that makes Spider smile, actually. Next, we've got Royce sitting in the park, feeding birds. After this, he wanders into his office, turns on his computer, checks to see on the recovery of the Word archive following the destruction of said archive. He's told that there's a 5.8% data recovery as of right now. Best estimate shows an eventual total data recovery of 87%. And he's apparently had specific things flagged to look for. He then has his computer activate a stealth suite. And he has the computer access his private evidence cache. His private evidence cache remains inviolate. All connections are stealth, no record of him connecting remotely to the cache from Word systems. And he's then asked if he wants to add to it. He then goes to one of the IT people at the Word and tells him he needs some phone records. The IT guy tells him it's out of bounds, though. Secured lines and whatnot. And Royce basically says, give me the damn logs. I have a secure line, so. But Royce meets with a PI in a bar. Apparently, he's blackmailing the PI. The PI is supposed to hack into the private archives of the Word's board of directors. And Royce explains that, however, he has evidence that basically could get this PI out of the good graces of his usual clientele, which are on a certain social stratum. And this evidence includes pictures including a rather novel way to marinate a chicken. Royce then goes back to the office. And he does manage to get at least something from the IT guy, however. And he calls a board member and agrees to meet with Royce, and before the board member arrives, Royce drops him source gas. Royce then shows up the next day at Yelena's father's house. Turns out he has a gift for Spider. most of the evidentiary material he logged with the words working archive. Royce explains that he does, basically Spider's job is to gather the evidence and write stories. Royce's job is everything else. He gets Spider paid. He moves Spider's work to all the places it needs to be. He runs Spider's insurance. He used to pay Spider's rent, deal with complaints of the edicts from above, and keep Spider mollified and everything else. He gets the work out of Spider and wipes Spider's ass and keeps his nose clean. Spider writes the stories. Royce does every other damn thing there is to do. And so he then says, basically, yeah. Big Daddy Mitch Royce makes it all better. This contains as much of the logged evidence as Royce could get. And one other thing. Proof that the president was directly responsible for his removal from the word. Royce goes to leave and basically says, I'm the only one who knows you've got all that. Catch it, Spider. And he goes, and Royce gets in a cab and heads off into the city. Next up, we have the actual titular story, The Cure. Part 1 begins with a young girl watching Anthrax Cat getting high on space dust. A local comes in and tries to chat the young girl up. She goes out for a walk, however. The government car drives by, takes a look at her, and compares her to the fatal screen in his hand, and drives on. The picture on his pad, after all, is that of on his tablet, is that of a transient. This young woman is anything but. And so the girl, Liesel, as she identifies herself, wants to come back somewhere. We don't really say where. And then Spider and his assistants come upon her. And it's explained that all the other hookers that serviced the Smiler while he was in town during the election are dead. She's the only one left. So they do a stop at her place, but so she can get some clothes and whatnot. When they discover Phil, her neighbor, very dead on the floor. A couple of Secret Service types walk in blur suits, which then get disrupted. Spider takes pictures. And actually shoots one of them. Not with a barrel disruptor, but with a gun, putting a hole through the man's chest. Yelena then hits the one who's still standing with the barrel disruptor, and the quartet leave. The gun, it turns out, has a self-destruct mechanism, and so Spider makes a point of using it. And so, Spider, Liesel, and Spider's 50 assistants switch to another switch cars, so that they're less conspicuous. And so they go to meet with Key from the hole. They're going to interview Liesel at Key's place. Spider explains to Key what's up. And so Liesel tells Spider her story. But Shannon and Elena are pretty sure something bad's about to happen. But Liesel tells her story. Apparently one of her, as she puts it, managers told her she should do something real quick to change her appearance. She had money saved, so she bought the cure. Going from gray to white, that's a change of appearance, right? And it turns out that there's a piece of clothing that Liesel has. From when she was with Callahan. And it's an outfit she only wears for special occasions. And Spider uses G-Rear on it. While in the reclamation zone, Shannon and Elena are simply walking around getting supplies for Spider. And now the drugs are beginning to wear off on Lisa. It finally clicks with her that Spider told her the other girls who've been with Callahan are dead. It turns out that there was genetic evidence of the Smiler on the outfit. So, meanwhile, police rappel into the reclamation zone. Heavily armed police. Tear gas, explosions. The works. Spider calls Shannon, asking where her and Elena are. Shannon thinks they've been made. They find a way to the They find a route back to Key's place while Key keeps an eye on Liesel, and Spider writes. And more riot cops or just straight up military personnel arrive in the city. Spider's brain problem is affecting his writing, though he's having trouble finding the right word. And it turns out that there's now basically disaffected homeless in the riot zone have put temporary housing in disaster management buildings to the torch. emergency powers in the zone, that can also hamper the net. So they can't get the story. They have to get the story out now, or it will never go out. Next, we get a press conference from the Smiler, where he makes his usual 5 minutes of nothing important. And Robert McX asks a question. When was the last time that the president had sexual intercourse with a transient prostitute? And the Smiler is left not smiling. And that is where we end. And that's it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. Should be back tomorrow with the weekly roundup. There wasn't one last week because, as I said, I said this on Thursday, nothing on my pull list came out, so nothing got picked up. But also Thursday should be back with 100 Bullets Volume 9. And we might be doing another video or two later on this week. We'll see. As I said, like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.